Welcome to What If We Can Change It All, the podcast.
A podcast created by Movement.Medicine.
My name is Shadisa.
And my name is Nina.
We believe that we have the power and therefore we can change it all.
This podcast is all about reclaiming your power.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next episode. Today we have a guest, and her name is Nina, and we are both very delighted to have her here. We met on a similar journey. I think it is 3 years ago almost. It feels like 3 years, but it also feels like way longer than that. And since then, we really bonded. We were in a women's circle together, and we bonded really well. And now she's here, and she does amazing stuff and has so much wisdom. So Nina, do you mind introducing yourself to our listeners?
I already take all you said. So thank you very much. I could add that I am working as a spiritual teacher. I'm mainly working with women. I feel really connected to the planet of Venus, to the Amazons, to nature, to the earth, to all of the mystical, earthy kind of ways of life and also ways of healing. Hosting retreats, hosting ceremonies, and would kind of define myself mainly as a priestess in the way of how I work. And through that journey also came another name, which is kind of new now. So it's Nina Magdalene. Nina Magdalene, which is kind of like underlining me saying yes to that path, like me saying yes to that journey. And it's funny I said the other name because like Nini is like the sweet version of my name, and I just have my brother here and he always calls me that. So that's the other side of me. Like I have many brothers, I have a big family. They're always like around me in a way, either physical or via phone or in the heart. So yeah, that's kind of me.
Thank you. I always start, huh?
Yeah, you do.
Sharing that.
You're
I actually
welcome.
want to dive straight in. Can you talk a bit about the path of the priestess?
That's a good big question to start with. So it's something that kind of refound me personally around 5 years ago. I've been on the spiritual path a bit longer. And what the spiritual path means to me is, I think, easier to start with that, is that reconnection to spirits, that reconnection to what's lying underneath for me of, what it means being a human, is remembering that essentially we're a soul, essentially we're coming from source, essentially, all of these things. And we have a possibility to reconnect to that and to channel the love really from that, and everything we really kind of also need for healing into our life and to gain a wider consciousness and a wider perception on things. So that's kind of the start from my personal understanding. And then the priestess part is really what I feel is the inner calling in that journey that can be very different for everyone. Like someone would, maybe define themselves more as a shamanic practitioner or as a healer or as a guide or as someone who's, opening a space where there can be children taken care of, like schools, other things. Like there's so many ways how we can contribute something. And then there are like all these different names to it and all these different fields and channels and versions from which you can work in. And I think at the end of the day, it's really more or less all the same, but you have these like different branches of, okay, where do I kind of like feel home and where I do feel that I'm coming from as well, and that my soul is here to serve from. So yeah, it's essentially, I think, being in service to the goddess, really, and to that idea of bringing the we have it now, the divine feminine and the divine masculine in balance again, on this earth plane. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, every one of us has like a facet of everything, and it really depends on what we feel is closest to us.
I liked also how you described the way of honoring your calling or honoring whatever, why ever you're here on this earth, right? And just following that path instead of like all the labels we create. And I mean, in the end, it is kind of a label, but this description feels very feminine actually, and very soft, and really also makes me think about how I see you at least, and like this soft, strong force. And yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's really, really it's funny because often sometimes when people like introduce themselves, you're like, oh yeah, I see that now. But with everything you said, it's like so spot on. It's just like how you are perceived, like, and also when I first met you, it's just like who you are, like in your core soul. And I think that's very, very beautiful. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. It's so beautiful, always these moments when someone else is seeing you. And when you see someone else, it's so special. It's like the greatest gift, really, I think we can give to one another, to look behind the facet of the outside and really, see the soul, essentially, and what the soul is about.
Yeah.
And there's so much I want to tap into, and I'm like, okay, don't blur it all out.
Hit it off.
Because I know what you do, right? And I know where you stand for. And I'm like, oh, everything is so interesting. And we didn't talk about a lot of your topics yet. So let me think. I think what you already kind of tapped into is like the connection with nature. And we didn't really tap into it.
No.
Let's go there, like the connection with nature. And I think also the mirroring part would be cool. Well, we can implement that later. Let's start with our connection with nature.
Yes, please. I love that.
How do you see it? How is your way of like connecting with nature or reconnecting with nature?
Yeah.
My first pathway to this that opened a couple of years ago was this combination of opening the space for returning to or reconnecting to the inner nature and reconnecting to the outer nature, and through that kind of deepening that understanding of nature as nature at the end of the day. And there's not so much an in and out really often. So the retreats I'm hosting, they had from the beginning, they had that baseline of we are serving the reconnection to inner and outer nature. And then underneath there was this text of like, through the inside, you can open up to a deeper connection to the outside again, to a deeper awareness, to a deeper aliveness, maybe also in how you feel nature around you and also just life around you. And the other way around. So, often is for people, oh, I go into nature and after that I'm, feeling more calm, like I'm feeling more being myself, just breaking it down really simple, like going on a walk or something. And to kind of like trying to, how to say that, to kind of like put in a focus more closely on those moments that gave one connection from that walk. For example, what was it on the walk that gave you connection? Maybe you've been breathing deeper. Maybe you've been taking the beauty around you in. Maybe your mind had something to do than just going round and round and round in circles, because nature was inspiring you. And I think if we tap into that concept of nature as well, it also supports us to open space for becoming more still and exploring nature, Like, what is my nature? It's so different than your nature, and your natures are also different from one another. At the end of the day, it's all one big oneness, right? It's one big family, it's one big nature, you can say, of life. But in that, there's so many individual and unique expressions, and having the outside nature, I'm giving those exclamation points, inspiring the connection to the inside nature, and the inside nature kind of inspiring the connection to the outside nature, is really like an interconnected, intertwined way of you can go both ways and have the same results, in a sense. Because at the end of the day, it can bring you back to this, oh wow, okay, essentially all has effects on one another, all is interconnected, and there's so many options of where I can tap into, where I can explore of what connects me personally deeper into what I feel is true for me. Because I think what follows nature is truth, and that can be so individual as well. So really going into exploring that and opening space for people to exploring their unique nature and the oneness nature is giving me the greatest joy, because I love unique expression of souls, of humans, of women, of men, of children, of animals, of plants. It's all really fascinating to me. Yeah.
I love that. And often we kind of forget like how much medicine there is in nature, right? And like just like you said, just having a little walk, or just like being there and fully observing it and fully taking it in has like such a big effect on the body.
Yeah.
But also then again, it's kind of logical also because we are nature too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So it just has this like grounding ability, but also like soothing ability, and also like it's nourishing. It's very nourishing for us to be there.
It's like this.
Because it reminds us in a way, I think. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
What were you saying?
It's like this little reset of ourselves, right? Like they get like new nutritions and new everything basically to just ground and calm down.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an endless path of exploration too. There's always something to explore, and it's often in the most simple or mundane appearing things that maybe can contain the greatest magic of, oh, here I am again, or here is more again than just my mind. I think through the way of living modern life with a lot of, artificial things, a lot of technology, a lot of problematic food, problematic stress, all of that, we've really been taking away from this and trying to make space for what's natural at the end of the day, what's alive, like alive food, what is alive in me, looking at that, feeling into that, what is alive in nature around me right now, the times of the year, the changing natural settings around me, how does that affect me also, where are the chances to understand me more, what is the invitation of winter, what is the invitation of summer. There's so many different energies also in nature surrounding me that have an effect, and often we are used to that idea of, oh, we always have to function the same way, like we should be like machines, we should be always happy or always productive, and that's just not nature in my sense. And that's what makes us very sick as a society too, as we're trying to force ourselves into, oh, actually, I need to work linear, I need to work like a machine, I need to function all the time. If I need to rest, if I need to, kind of like go out, it's a failure, it's weak, it's but it's not really at all.
I think nature really allowed me to observe first and then reflect on what's happening within, right? If you can see the cycles and the seasons, then you can also live more in a centered way in yourself. And
yes.
I think I don't want to say one of my first nature walks, but one of my first open nature walks, let's say, I really observed like how the trees were standing, the flowers, everything, like the leaves. And then it got me reflect on my own life and how I was also then like really forcing everything, right? And like also the death and everything, and just everything could just be, because I was in a raw piece of nature also, but everything could just be instead of like needing to be perfect. And I was like, oh yeah, actually this is also one of my biggest lessons. I don't need to be perfect. I can fail. Nothing needs to be perfect and amazing and la 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 la. And but it can all come in its own timing. And that was like one of my biggest lessons, I think, in nature.
So
Just,
beautiful.
yeah, it's such a great mirror, actually, if you allow it to be, and forget often.
It is. I also, because of that, if I can add that one part, is why I love to work with the Wheel of the Year, which is also what a lot of, you can say, priestesses, healers, however you want to name it, feel very drawn to. Also here on European land, as it's really coming from this land. And I think one of the major problems of this European continent is that we were the first ones really losing our indigenous roots and our roots to nature. As in shamanism, you say, maybe you know that, I'm sure you heard about this, that every continent has kind of the task to take care of one element. And for example, for Europe, it's fire, for Africa, it's earth, and so on and so forth. Asia is air. So one of my teachers once said, well, you know, we started to really use the fire in a wrong way on this continent. So it like burned everything down, also all around. And we kind of like also came to the point where roots been taken away. But before that moment, people were living more in tune with nature. People were more in that rhythm of life because they were so much more closer to nature, and it didn't need like a huge, you know, battle for that, or huge perfectionism, or huge all what came after, like the industrialism, all of that. It has positive effects too, of course, but I think adding this Wheel of the Year kind of remembrance into modern life right now is such a healing force, because it shows all these points throughout the year, all these different festivities we had back then and on European land, honoring nature for its different seasons. And you had, you know, Lita, like the midsummer, which is really celebrated a lot in Sweden still. You had Lunasat, which was 2 days ago, which is now about starting to look at everything you kind of has been ripe throughout the years. Like, okay, what has been put out? You start collecting your little gifts and collecting your little gems of wisdom and collecting your learnings also for your life. So all these different moments of the year with working with the Wheel of the Year can be such a psychological healing factor to me, as we are just reminded like, oh, what's out there in nature right now? Oh, interesting, what's inside of my nature, if we're going to stay with that term right now. You know, what is happening psychologically, what is going on emotionally, well, how am I physically, and where are the reflections maybe and the points of mirroring and understanding for myself, that where are the gems that I can find here. And that for me was a big healer on my journey, because that supported me in allowing myself to not being perfect, to not function all the time, to not be that rat in the wheel and just think I have to go at all times in order to prove myself of anything, really, of being worth of being alive. I don't need to do that. No one needs to do that. Yeah.
You also shared something about it's all a matter of perception. And I think this is really something I stand for, and I think we both stand for. But it would be to hear your way of seeing this.
Yeah.
That's also quite a multi-layered thing, isn't it?
Definitely.
Because I feel there's such a fine line in understanding that in the way of how I intend it to be understood. What I personally mean with all is a matter of perception is that there are always so many layers in life, layers to life, layers of consciousness, layers of also the matter that you can look at one topic. For example, I had quite a health crisis 3 months ago, and Janine knows, she helped me a lot. And in that moment, looking at it, for example, from the physical level, I was just like, oh, there's pain. I want this pain to leave. Like, I can't stand it. I can't bear it. Looking at it from an ancestral eye, I was like, oh, I very much understand. And it very much makes sense. Also, if I look at the factors that have been surrounding me at that time, or things that have been built up, why it kind of break off, why it came through like that health crisis moment. And so if I would have just kind of stuck with the perception on, oh, my body is in pain, I hate that, I don't like that, I wouldn't have come too far with a wider understanding. And so I think all is a matter of perception is for me often a good reminder of don't get stuck into just one layer of your being, or also one layer of perceiving someone else or perceiving a whole situation. Like, always try to, also look from the angles where maybe I feel a lot of resistance to look at, to understand more deeper what's going on. And the wider I can, try to take an eye on something, the less I am stuck, and the less also I tend to become extreme and one-sided. And I think all of these things are very dangerous, because they're the easy solutions, but not sustainable. And also they can then again turn us into that mode of separation. And the one like, oh, I am right, and only this, and it gets a bit, non-inclusive again. Also non-inclusive towards myself, really.
Yeah. I think it's also really a shamanic way of looking at things, right? Like zooming out and really seeing the ego view, like being above it all and see all the perceptions and all things, how it can be, and then don't attach a story to it, and then it can heal just by being mostly. I mean, it needs something or some things to do, right? But it can heal by itself. Not just when it's like a health crisis, but like all of it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's this way of like taking space, and then you can dive in.
Yeah. Also asking different questions on different levels. Like, I love to ask, also into the higher realms, you can say, the divine soul aspect of mine that we all have, and connecting through that, with, for example, the support of my guides, or the source, God, goddess, however you want to call it. And also checking from there, here and there. And then also going to earth and being like, okay, where can she teach me? What can I learn right now? Might there be an answer here? Can I try something? Can I change something? Yeah.
It's like when you start to listen, then the answers come, right? And when you don't, you're just like in this closed-minded view, then nothing will come in.
Yeah. And sometimes also it's not always the right moment for all answers.
Also.
Yeah.
And that's something that can be so hard for the minds. It's like, I'm asking the right questions. Can I please have the right answers? Like, my mind thinks I'm asking the right questions, right?
Yes.
At the right time. And maybe it's not the right time for me to receive that, because I am not open, or first I maybe want to experience something else and I don't really know that yet. Or there's a lesson still to learn, and I can't control that time frame of a healing with my mind and with my ego and what I want. but yeah, there's also a deep part of surrendering and observing in
Yeah.
it, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which we can, sorry,
No, it's okay.
which we can connect again with nature, right? There's like everything is in divine timing.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I love
absolutely.
what you said also, like, but about like being ready to receive, because if we want an answer on something, right, and we're like so focused on that,
Yeah.
we're like gripping it so tight, and then there's no way we can be like in that surrender. There's no way the answer can come through us because we're like so focused, and it's just hard to receive that way, because if you're so focused on one thing and gripping it so tight, you're actually also closed off.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
love that you also mentioned that, because I think that's really important.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's something I experienced in the last 3 months. It's like, oh, I want this. No, I don't have any more time for that. Well, yeah, you should make time. You should make more time, maybe. And there's still some things to learn, but here's where I think of the line of your podcast, like like why, or what is it like, and
What if
how
you
you
could
framed it?
change it all?
Well, if you can change it all, like, yeah, why could it be possible also to heal it all at some point? Not today, not tomorrow, but you never know, but how can I open for that thought, even for that possibility, without at the same time attaching myself to it? Why is that possible? What if we can do it all? What if there can be support at the right place, right time, right moment? All of that always gives me a lot of hope, because yeah, I mean, I'm still on that journey, and we all are. And for me, that a physical topic also is like it's not like I can, take it off. It's something where I feel and I know, and I also kind of learn to accept in these last few weeks, to say like, okay, it's how it is, and I try to keep rolling with it and exploring as well, and never forget that at the end of the day, there's also a lot of strength in me, no matter what, when I let myself being supported by spirit, the earth, other humans, myself, the plants, everything. Yeah. Hope is really important always, I think.
Yeah.
It's the key.
Makes changes. I guess we have to.
Yeah.
You always do this though.
Please
Like,
go.
so what would your ultimate tip be for our listeners?
The ultimate tip is a big question. I'm glad you asked that before. So I can be like, okay, out of all the tips, the thought I was having, and I can still really reconnect with, is that it's so worth it. That it's so worth it to step onto the path of moving towards the deprogramming of the soul at the end of the day, from everything that is not truly you. And that is the journey also that can bring a lot of love here and there for ourselves, a lot of compassion, and through that also for others. It's that journey of reconnecting to what is natural and finding that out, and also allowing that my way can be completely different than the way from others, and that there's not one formula and one blueprint of this is the step number 1, this is step number 2 and 3, and if you tick all of these boxes, you're the enlightened version of yourself. Like, no, I don't think it works like that. So yeah, stepping onto that really brave journey also is so worth it, because there's so much richness of life and power and force and belief in one own soul, spirit, body, being, that just makes life also like a fun journey. And yeah, just deeper in a sense, deeper felt. And I love that personally. It's really worth everything. So yeah, that would be my tip. Just like keep on following that call of the soul and make time and space to listen to the soul. Because often I try to, find the answers from the outside. And then it's like, oh, actually, if I listen to myself, maybe there's the answer. So making space for that, embarking on that journey, so worthwhile doing it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Such an important one. We will share your links and everything in the bio, but how can people find you?
On Instagram, mainly. I don't have a website since 3 years because I was in this ever-changing process of, I feel like I'm moving into another version of myself, and I don't want to define myself and my work right now too much in words. I don't want to give it a container yet. So yeah, I think this is still upcoming again, but Instagram, yes, it's kind of the main thing. I have a monthly newsletter. These are like the two ways to connect. And also to add, my work is kind of full still right now in German. Maybe that will change one day, as I'm from Germany and I work a lot here in this country, in Austria, also in the countries around, but then mostly in German by now. Sometimes here and there in English, also in one-on-ones. It's also possible in English, but the group settings are in German at the moment. And, we see what the future holds. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, Nina, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom, for making the time. We really appreciate it. And
thank you.
for the listeners, thank you for listening again. We also really appreciate it. This was it for now. We will see you again next week. And much love.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.